In this video, we're going to demonstrate how to create a new module with a Java accessor, and we'll also show you how to code that accessor using the IntelliJ 9 Community Release IDE. The first thing we'll do is create a physical location for our module. If you recall from the earlier video, we placed a modules directory that's going to contain all the module development work. So let's create another directory for this new module. We'll call that urn.org 1060 tutorial Java module. Inside this, we need, of course, a module.xml file. We'll use this version number, and we'll just say Java module. Okay, that takes care of the meta information. The system tag is fine with dynamic. And down here is the root space. In the root space, we're going to add a mapper. And in this mapper configuration area, we're going to enter an endpoint with a grammar that's going to match tutorial Java module hello world. And that's the URL that we're going to send from the browser. And for a request, we need to specify a service that's going to be called. And we're going to use the Java service to run a Java endpoint. And we need an argument that specifies the class. And we're going to use Hello World Accessor. Now the Hello World Accessor running with a Java service needs to have an import in the space so that the service can be brought in. Now I'll show you how to go back to NetKernel and do a search to find out which module to import. So we'll go back here, active Java, and I must have misspelled it. There it is, the Java runtime. And we find out that it's this module here with a layer 1 module. It's that service. Now we need to think about having this module imported into the front-end fulcrum. And to do that, we need to have a resource file in etc system. That is the import hook definition. So I've got a template for that set up. Simple dynamic import hook.xml. That'll create that file. And then we need to make sure that that file is mounted. So let's go back here and file set. Okay, so that'll make sure that that resource is mounted into the address space so that it can be discovered and the dynamic import connection can be made to the front end fulcrum. Okay, so we've got the skeleton of the module defined. We need to tell NetKernel the physical location. So we're going to go into the NetKernel instance installation area and go to the etc modules file. And this is, as you know, where we tell NetKernel the physical location of all modules. So we'll add this one by doing this. And if you recall from the earlier video, we talked about how we use this .. to go up a level and then to modules. That's because this file maintains addresses that is relative to the installation. So what we want to do is go up a level to modules and then back down to our new module. So we'll save those, save our module file, and now we should be ready to restart NetKernel. So we'll go back here, we'll shut down NetKernel and then restart it. And while that's happening, we're going to switch over to IntelliJ. And we need to do a couple things to get this set up. This is a beta release of the new IntelliJ 9 Community Edition, and it was built on October 30th, and it's release .137. You may have a different version, and when this IDE is released with final release, we'll probably update the video if there are any differences. So what we want to do now is create a new project, and we'll create it from scratch. We're going to call it NetKernel. Now in IntelliJ, a project is a structure that contains what they call modules, not to be confused with NetKernel modules. A module in IntelliJ is a unit of compilation or a set of classes, or basically a unit of work. And a project is a collection of those. So we're going to call this NetKernel, and we're going to save the project definitions in the modules directory. And we're going to use a file-based way to save the information. So we should say finish, done. Next, we need to create a library, a project library. And the purpose of this is to provide linkage information. So we're going to call this NetKernel, and what we'll do is attach the jar files from the NetKernel jar installation that we need for compiling a Java accessor and transreptors and so on. So we need these, these jar files. This is the NetKernel API and implementation, the standard module, and layer 0. And then also we're going to pick up some modules that are very helpful to have. We don't need it right away, but probably we'll need XML processing at some point, so we'll add that. And then we also need layer 1. If you find that you're writing an accessor or some piece of Java code for NetKernel and you don't have the right classes, you can just go back here and edit the library and add what you need. Now that we've got the project defined, let's create a module. And this is going to relate to our NetKernel module. So we're going to create it from scratch, and we're going to locate the physical directory that we just created. And that's down here, a little bit of navigating. NetKernel modules, and there's our Java module. So we're going to pick that, and it picked up the name and everything. So that's handy. Now we pick next, and we're going to say the source path is the root of the module directory. And we don't need to add any extra technologies. In a later video, I'll show you how to develop in Scala, and in that case we will have downloaded a plugin for Scala, and that will appear here, but right now we're just doing pure Java development. So we'll say finish, and we're almost ready to go, but we need to bring up the module settings and make a few adjustments. We're going to tell the IDE to output the class file compilations to the root of this module directory. So we need to take this out. And let's see, we're going to add the dependency of the NetKernel library that we've defined. So the dependencies are Java, the module source code, and NetKernel. The paths are set correctly. The source is the correct root, and looks like we're ready to go. So let's click OK on that. And now we're ready to create our Java class. So we'll say new Java class, and this is the Hello World accessor. And we don't need this documentation, so let's take that out. And this is going to extend the standard accessor impl. It picks up the fact that it's a class it knows about, so we'll hit the key to do an automatic import. And now we're going to write the source method, which is public void on source, and it gets an INKF request context object, and it can throw an exception. So then we're ready to do that, and it'll pick up that class and do the import. And this is just a simple hello world, so we're going to create a response, and we'll import that class, and that is from context dot, and we'll wait for the helper to come up, create response from an object, and that will be hello world, a text string. And then on the response, we're going to set the MIME type to text plain. And that should be it. So we'll do a compile here, compile that accessor. And so let's see here. We've got the module set up, we've got the class defined, we've compiled it. Let's go back and do a restart on NetKernel, and we'll see if things look right. There's the Java module being picked up. You can see it right there. It's loading. Everything looks pretty good. And we'll go back to Opera browser, and we're going to tab over to where in the previous tutorial we got our first module, and this is going to be Java module. And there it is, Hello World. So we have shown you how to set up a new module, configure the IntelliJ 9 Community Edition IDE, and use it to create a Java accessor. And that concludes this tutorial.